Well, first of all, several of you mentioned being gardeners. Were there any surprises on the quiz? Let me ask that first. Anything that you were like, I have no idea?
I don't actually know whether or not wind helps a garden. I would think
Okay.
it was because of cross-pollination, but like
Okay.
too strong a wind will blow over your crops and
Yeah?
yeah, that.
That's good. Anybody else?
Ladybugs.
Ladybugs. What about ladybugs? Was that a surprise?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
What do
Anybody else?
ladybugs do? They eat aphids.
What do ladybugs do?
They might
Ooh.
pollinate stuff. They might also eat stuff.
Yeah.
So,
You had a question, I can tell.
Well, number 5, I'm pretty sure a carrot is a vegetable, but I was wondering why it was a question.
Okay. Good. Excellent. All right. Well, when Michael asked me to talk today, there are a lot of different ways to go with this, but I think what I'm going to do is, because you're under the Department of Education, talk a little bit more about education in the community. Sometimes because we're here at the university, we're not as aware of what's going on in the community in terms of this kind of project. So my name's Louise Walder, and I am a volunteer only for Prosperity Gardens, and Mary as well. And 4 years ago, this actually came out as a result of a step that the church that we attend was looking for ways to volunteer in the community and be a part of the Midtown community, because we're located right next to the Plasma Bank, if anybody knows where that's at. And that is kind of an obscure little place. And we're a second site for Twin City Bible Church. So as a part of that, we were looking and walking through the Midtown area, and just walking, we saw an incredible number of needs in just a short period of time. And there's this big, vast difference between what's going on Green Street and what's happening just as close as University Street, and the kinds of needs that are there in the community. So in the course of that, we ran across, then there was a farmer's market that was happening in the parking lot of the police station on First Street. And it's no longer there. They've moved all of that over by where the Neal Street is. I don't know if you guys have participated in that, but so Nicole Bridges is the woman that is responsible for the beginnings of the Prosperity Gardens. And what happened was Nicole was involved with the Peace Corps, and she went to Zambia, and she worked over there with sustainability and food. She came back. She grew up in Champaign. When she came back to Champaign, she was amazed at what the needs were here, right in Champaign-Urbana. So much so that she asked for help through AmeriCorps, and then AmeriCorps and the people at Land of Lincoln is right across the street. So if you're not familiar with Land of Lincoln, here in Champaign-Urbana, we have one of the highest numbers of predatory lending, and people who get involved with getting fast money for their car titles, etc. They tend to be very much in at-risk neighborhoods. And so Land of Lincoln are the attorneys group that help to advocate for them. So they picked up Nicole's AmeriCorps. A woman there, Valerie, picked up the AmeriCorps piece of that, and that's how Prosperity Gardens started. So they had started that, and before that, Nicole had worked at the Boys and Girls Club, which is right around the corner, and she knew the needs of the children that were there. So when she started the garden, it was a natural connection for her to want to work with the children over at the Boys and Girls Club. She saw how difficult it was for a lot of those families to eat healthy. And she also saw the needs. There's what's called a food desert actually in that area, and if you're not familiar with that term, what it means is that you cannot walk to a good grocery store that's affordable within that area. You can get to a gas station, get quick junk food, but it's really difficult to actually find good, healthy food. So she started the gardens. When she first started, what you see here is the beginnings of what she had. Now it actually encompasses across the street as well, and there's also now they've just obtained from the city an acre further north that is going to go into the works. So there's a lot of changes that are actually going to be coming in the next year or two. What you can't see in this picture is just north of there is what's called the evidence building, and that is actually the building where the police department had their evidence stored. It's a really cool building, I think. It's triangular. If you go by, you're like, what is that? Well, on the outside is a brick building. It looks like it's got a lot of stories to tell, and you wish it could tell its stories. It's got the railroad tracks right next to it, and then the gardens are just on the south side of it. That building has been empty, and so for a while, Nicole was able to use it, and we actually were able to store things. But unfortunately, it got filled with mold, and apparently dangerous mold, and so they didn't give her access to it anymore. However, it sounds as though the city's going to sell it to her now for $1, so it's legal. And they're hoping someday to make it into a community educational center, which would be really nice. So what are the challenges of educating the children that come? The children that have been involved in from the Boys and Girls Club are kindergarten, first and second graders that are coming for the education of what we have named now the Garden Club. And the initial time, or the initial year that we started 4 years ago, Nicole wasn't sure exactly what the program was going to look like. I had walked in and asked her if I could help volunteer for the farmers market. She did not have anyone to teach the Boys and Girls Club, Garden Club for the summer, and so she asked me if I would teach, and I said yes. I wasn't sure exactly what I said yes to. I have a habit of this, don't I, Michael? Anyway, what she basically wanted me to do was teach the children, but also write the curriculum. So I did that. I went about writing a curriculum that would cover the number of weeks over the summer, and at first, it wasn't very well defined on either side. Today, what it is the actual science class that the Boys and Girls Club have during the summer. When they come once a week for 9 weeks, this is their science class. So the initial year, we had one raised bed to our name. So one of those beds is what we occupied the first year. And we had everything that we did happened in that, but we had access to the rest of it. The second, the third, and the fourth year, we kept growing, and we kept finding more things that we could do. So you can see that we have expanded. We have the first the first two on one side and the first three on this side are actually our project. So if you turn your sheet over, I'm going to really quickly show you what our goals were. So this year, this has changed every year, and as you can see, this is pretty ambitious for a 9-week class. First and foremost is to have fun. I liked our comment here about, I remember Grandpa or Grandma's garden. What is it about our family's garden that we remember? It's a place that's just special to be in. We relax, we learn, we just are with somebody that's special in our lives. So one of the things we hope to do is just first and foremost establish a place that these kids feel really safe and that they can trust and that they think is fun. So that's my first goal, because that's part of what gardening is for me. I want them to be able to identify the plants. So what's happening is, that sounds like a simple thing maybe, but what you have to remember is this program depends totally on volunteers. So like Mary and I come to be volunteers, but there's what you don't see behind me are about 10 other people that also volunteered. Some of them come from the READY program that are actually employees there during the summer. And these are high school kids that have come from at-risk homes or situations, A to Z in that. But they are hired by the Prosperity Gardens during the summer to actually be there and do work. So they are our volunteers as well, some of them, depending on the schedule. So that's some high school kids. So think about some high school kids behind me who may or may not know about gardening. Then we've got some master gardeners that come from the extension program. Typically, what I have found with the master's garden program is they have oodles of information about flowers, nothing about vegetables. I have been teaching lots of master gardeners about what a vegetable is, and it's been lots of fun. Then there's 4 or 5 of us now from Twin City Bible Church that also have been volunteering, and many of them also are here at the university teaching and have had all kinds of experiences, even globally, with gardening. So that gives you a little, oh, and we have always had at least one volunteer from Land of Lincoln that came over. So we've had an attorney with us, which that's been a lot of fun too. So think of multiple layers of teaching. There's been teaching the volunteers and then teaching the students. And then what we're hoping is that some of that is going into the homes and into the family situation, right? Because that's where the real changes can really happen. So identifying plants is number one. Know how to water a plant. And so we have watering cans for the students and we let them learn how to actually water it. Again, that can be a challenge. We also have a water hose, and that's a real popular thing with the kids. Know how to make a plant grow and what makes it grow. Identify 3 different kinds of soil. That was something we added this year. I actually asked, many people don't realize that the very expensive homes out in those nice subdivisions are very poor for their soil. What they don't know is that the builders, when they come in, actually come in and take all the topsoil away before they build the home. And so it's clay, it's down to the clay base. So all these homeowners around us have poorer soil than a lot of us that have had older homes where it's been amended, or out in the country where your house is like older than the hills, you know, so you've got this rich soil. We take that for granted. So what I did is I had a friend who actually lived in one of those homes bring me a bucket of soil from their yard. It was horrible. It was clay. It was yellow, orange. It was just awful. And they're like, can you help us know how to garden in this? So I brought a bucket of that, and then I had a bucket of topsoil, and I had a bucket of sand. And what we did is we did some experiments with those 3 types of soil to see how quickly the water would go into it, see how quickly it drained from it, and then we planted a poor little tomato plant, 1 in each bucket, to see which one thrived the most over 9 weeks. And if you've gardened, you can predict which one had tomatoes on it, and the other 2 that were going, oh, you know, like dying on the vine. So know how to harvest basic vegetables, herbs, and flowers. We taught the kids how to harvest, not to pull, you know, how to use. We have scissors to help the kids with some of them. Some of them we teach them that they can use their hands, but they have to hold the plant so the whole entire plant doesn't come out by the roots. Identify basic parts of the plant. Know how to weed. First, you got to know what a weed is before you know how to weed, right? So I'm like, no, don't move, don't pull that. That's not a weed, but that is a weed. So we learned about that. Identify bugs that are friendly and harmful to the garden. The kids love this. Actually, I have a picture. Do I know how to switch the pictures on this?
On the keyboard,
Yep.
there should be a right and left arrows.
Yep.
And those are the guides you forward and back.
Okay. So here are some plots at the very beginning, the first week. I'm going to see if I can find, let me just real quick see if we'll come back to this. I want to show you a picture of the bugs.
You have a water garden.
Oh yeah, hang on here. There we go. So we're looking for some bugs. We have pictures, and then we also look for the eggs, and we talk about safe ways versus dangerous ways, unhealthy ways to get rid of bugs. And so we really try to talk about, do we want to use a pesticide? Is it necessary? We call our garden an organic garden, so that's something that we talk about as well. We look at safe ways to get rid of pests and bugs, how to make 5 easy snacks from the garden. That's a really big thing for me, as I want the students, all the kids. If you've ever had children, you know that children make a big difference in what moms buy and dads buy in the grocery store. And if my kids, I mean, by the time I got up to the checkout, I would find things in my cart that I had not put in the cart. And so I was always having to, you know, kind of monitor what they were sneaking into the cart, right? So I know how much my 3 kids had impact on what I bought. We all also had a garden, raising our 3 children. But what I'm hoping to do by making snacks is for kids to know some of these children are actually responsible when they get home to make snacks for themselves. So yeah, That seems young, right? No, they are, trust me. And so if there's things that I can do to promote healthy snacks and healthy grocery shopping, and so that they can say, hey, Mom, are we buying local? That kind of information I think is really important. How to use recycling materials when gardening. And then we do one group project where everybody works together rather than dividing them out. This is just me being I don't know what. Identify the state flower and the state bird and the state bug. I just think that's fun. And I also know that a lot of these kids that are in the program, not all of them, but some of them are really having a challenge when they are in the classroom. And if they can be the one to raise their hand in the fall, if I know what the state bird is, if the teacher asks some random state bird question, then they can be the one to have the confidence that I think it's worth it. But I also think it's important. They live in the state of Illinois, right? They should know those things. And I don't know if you guys know. Does everybody here know what the state bird is? Cardinal. What's the state bug? Do you know? The monarch. And what is the state flower?
Is it violet?
It is. And we have a violet in our garden. But by the time we start in the summer, it's never in bloom, so I always feel like it doesn't help them out very much. Then we talk about edible flowers, and we have photography where we use a sequence. We show them a sequence from seed to produce, which I want to show you that. And then we also want to associate colorful food with nutrition. So in my other life, I am a speech pathologist, and I work in early intervention with birth to 3 children. That's infants. And some of my kids have adversities to foods. And I also have some that have what's called a G-tube. And they have to go from eating right into their stomach to eating orally. And that is a big transition, to go from eating formula from your stomach directly and learning how to chew and eat foods. And sometimes with that comes sensitivities, allergies, you're just like aversions to food, whether it's the way it looks and the way it tastes or the color of it. Preferences of color is a big deal. So that's something I'm aware of in infants, and I can see that across the board. It's not just infants. We live in a crazy world when it comes to food right now. You guys are in a very unique, I think, world. You've got so many choices, and so everybody's telling you this is bad, this is good. Eat organic, don't worry about organic. Eat bacon, don't eat bacon. I don't know, So all the choices are out there. Well, these are little guys that are trying to make sense of all that, right? And some of them have lost the joy of eating, just eating good food. So that is something that trying to associate color, not always do they get exposed to different colors of food. We tend to be the wealthy people that have those options. Not everybody has those options for color. So one of the things in the garden that you'll see is that, we're learning to harvest. Hang on, I'll quick go through these and show them. Oh, okay, here's a little guy. This should be first. This is a snow pea. What do you think? Is he gonna try it or not? And he's not sure. Yes! He decided it was worth a try, so that was really fun. So let me show you quick. All right, so see the 5 different colors in the background, in my way. Those are 5 different gardens based on color. So what we do is we have a green garden, an orange garden, a purple garden, a yellow garden, and a red garden. And all the vegetables are planted by their color. So the kids love that. So I'll have a green team, and they get to plant all the green plants, and an orange team, and a purple team, and a yellow team, and a red team. So those guys learn which ones are there. And then as they grow bigger, then of course they get to see them and pull the produce out, and we get to go, okay. And we do what's called garden detectives. And the garden detectives, they have things to go in and harvest. And I'll say, go to the green garden and find a cucumber. Go to the red garden, find a sweet bell pepper. And so they'll find it by color. And then we'll talk about how important color is. This is another thing we do. At the very beginning, we talk a lot about seeds and the importance of seed. And we also talk about seed packets and all the information that's on there. So what I did is I made seed kits, and in here were the seeds, and then here is the, this tells what it is and what it looks like. And then what we do later in the summer is we go and we harvest things, or I bring things in from the grocery store, and then they cut them and look at them, find the seeds, and then see if they match the seeds that are in the seed kit. Kids love this. They just think that's a really fun thing to match the seed. Here is our individual plots. So this brings the photo project into place. So what happens is each child gets, let me go through this quick. I think did I have a seed packet in here, on here? Yep, there we go. Each one gets a packet of seeds, and do you want to talk about this, Mary? No? Okay. All right. Well, she does this so well. She has it with a ruler, and we have the seeds. Actually, I think this is the one I did this year, so it might not be as nice as the ones you've done. But what we do is we take a picture of that, and then I'll pass these around. These are from 2013, but each week then, the students look at their individual plots, they plant that, and then they put the plant. We pull out one, and they put it next to a ruler, and then they can compare how big it gets from week to week, and then they take this home at the end of the summer, and they get to show it to their parents, and they love it. If there's not a plant, it means the kid wasn't there that week. But so what you'll see, let me show you the plots. You're going to get to see this over and over. See, so this is individual plots divided up. So each child gets a plot, and that's their garden. And then they plant them. And this is fun, too, to teach kids how to plant seeds. This is harder than it looks. The first couple years we did this, everybody was just dumping it. And we were like, oh, that doesn't matter. And then we're like, no, we need to be a little bit more careful. And so we were trying to get them to read the instructions on the back. Some are readers, some aren't. And get them to do it like every 2 inches apart or inch apart, so that they come up and they're not overwhelming the space. So the other thing that we have to really work with are the emotions of each week. The child will pull one and then take it and get a picture taken. Well, they take ownership of all those little plants, right? So then they are so sad that plant's going to die. You mean I had to pull it out and it's going to die? So a lot of them will sneak back and try to put it back in the ground and hope that, and so what we usually have to do is remove it so that there's no tears the following week when they find the one that died. So it becomes, they really love this and enjoy it. The other thing you don't see in this is we also have them plant marigolds around the outside edge as a way to talk about companion planting. And I put some photos up here. I'm going to pass these. This is something else we talk about, is how one of the natural ways to keep bugs away is to use what's called companion gardening. And that's where, here, I'll show these since you're filming it. Does that help? Okay, so this just gives some examples of how a carrot and rosemary, for instance, is a really nice complement, carrots and chives. So what we do is we try to explain to the kids that there are ways that you can use plants to work together as companions, and it helps enhance the growth of it, whether what's going into the soil or what kind of bugs it draws. And so those are things that we've done in the past. The other thing we talk a lot about, not with the marigold, but with the nasturtium and calendula, are edible flowers. And the kids are really excited. They don't realize that that is something that is possible, that you can actually eat flowers. Now we have to really watch that we're careful how we present that. Not all flowers are edible, and some are toxic actually. And the ones at the florist, I would never, I would always caution them not to eat the flowers, because those have been sprayed and sprayed and sprayed with pesticides so that they can look so beautiful when somebody gets them. So one of the projects that we do then with those garden plots, as well as the whole garden, is I do garden detectives, and we have garden maps. So this one's blank. So what I would do is assign a group or a team to a portion of the maps and say, I want you to fill that in and go with your leader and figure out what is growing in that plot. Well, first I have to teach the leaders, right? And tell them, no, that's parsley. That's not chives, that's parsley, So we have to make sure the leaders know what they're identifying, but the kids love filling out the maps with their clipboards and pencils. You see them walking around with clipboards and pencils doing that. The other thing, and I was showing this to Michael earlier, we try to pick like some just basic insects to identify and talk about how they help the garden. And so last year we did one on butterflies versus moths. And after the students were gone, they were able to take their pictures home. We asked them at the end to draw a picture. And I found this on the ground. One of them had left it, so it's my treasure. But you will see it's a butterfly versus a moth. And if you're an entomologist, you will really love this picture because the little antennas here for the butterfly versus the antennas for the moth. And we talked about daytime pollination and nighttime pollination. A lot of kids didn't know that, so I'm going to pass that around so you can enjoy kid art, because that's a really nice piece of that. Okay, let me just real quick go through this and then see if there's any questions. I feel like I'm talking really fast at you. So, okay, so another thing I feel really passionate about is that gardening is for everyone and that it's affordable. So one of the things, if you are a gardener and you've been a gardener for very long, is that you might have a water garden and you may have spent a lot of money on your water garden, but you can actually have the luxury, it is a luxury, of a water garden and see little goldfish and bugs and come to your garden as a result. So on a very tight budget, I explained to the kids what the cost of this was, that we went to Farm and Fleet and got this animal tank, which was very reasonable. And when we dug the hole underneath, we set it. My husband actually really is the designer of this and does all the leveling and making sure it's even and well placed. But so what we did is we put that in there. We got water plants. We even put a few candles, floating candles. But what you don't see is underneath, we put pots underneath and there's a lot of rock around the gardens. So I explained to the kids how to make a level area under the water so that we can put the plants on top. And then the kids help put rocks inside these so that they don't flip over when the wind comes or so they're heavy. Then we fill it with goldfish. Does anybody know why we fill it with goldfish? That's good. Anything else? Any ideas? It is pretty. And it also, they eat the mosquitoes. So then you don't have a mosquito trap in your backyard. They'll eat the larvae and then it keeps the mosquitoes down. So that's really fun. The kids know that. Now what has happened ever since the first year we did this, because there's this hole in the ground and there's this rock, we kind of put the rock, we take the plastic out to store. Every year since, we have found a lovely pet snake, we call it our garden club snake, that hibernates underneath there in the wintertime, and the kids now know it's there. So in the spring when we do this project, they're always looking for the snake, which you can imagine that we get a little, this is a goldfish going in at the last, and they're watching. I have to confess we've usually had to restock a few times because sometimes we have some goldfish that don't make it. Here we're just talking about identifying bugs and watching. One of the best things we did for this program is to have bilingual volunteers, and I cannot even begin to stress that enough. The first year we did not have anyone that spoke Spanish, and the children that were Spanish speaking were very sweet and very cooperative, but they were pretty quiet. As soon as we had somebody that spoke Spanish, I had the most lively bunch, and I just loved it. They were so much more interactive. So that was something, a learning curve for me that I had overlooked the first year. I didn't even think about it. I didn't know who the children were that were coming from Boys and Girls Club. So that's always an important thing I want to note to anybody who's an educator, of course. That seems like an obvious thing. We're looking for, we have, I don't know if you can see this, this is actually a little microscope lens that we were looking at the eggs. The kids thought it was really cool. What they're doing is we were going to take soapy water and then wash off the eggs. They thought that was really fun to take the leaves and switch them around. Okay, and then I'll finish with this one. This is, we have what's called the under-over garden. And actually, this is just the first year. So this is not the actual one, but the poles remind me of that. So what we have is we have each individual plot. We have an under-over garden. We have the 5-color garden, and we have a sensory garden. This was the first year, so this was our whole thing in one plot. But the poles, my husband and I had gotten this out of our yard when we were clearing off some big old evergreens, and they worked perfect for this. So a lot of kids and adults don't know if the vegetable grows above the ground or under the ground. So that's been really fun. The first time they pull a carrot out of the ground is like magic. They're just like, oh, there's a carrot under there, and they're so excited. So that's really, really fun. Or a sweet potato or anything that's from underground. The kids just love that. So they really don't know where their vegetables come from. The grocery store, right? So one of the big educating pieces of that is for them to see where it comes from and how, it grows, it actually grows, and whether it's above the ground or under the ground. The sensory garden is things that for them to smell and to experience. If you're a gardener and know what lamb's ear is, it's a plant that's not edible, but it has this fuzzy leaf on it that's really soft like a lamb's ear, hence the name. The kids think that's really fun. So we collect a lot of things like mint, rosemary, the lamb's ear, things just for them to touch and feel and be a kid and enjoy the garden, right? And one of the things that we did do with the snacks, and I should mention this quick, is we tried to bridge between snacks that sound familiar to them and snacks that are healthy. So we made tacos. The tacos were lettuce tacos, and we would harvest lettuce, and then that was the taco shell, and then we would put the salad inside with some blueberries, and that was their lettuce taco. We made pizza, and that was a veggie pizza. So we did a scavenger hunt, and they had to hunt for everything in the garden, and then bring it back as a team, clean their own carrots, give a kid a little shredder and a carrot, and you've got a project that will last a good long time. They love that. A peeler is what I want to say. And then we chop that up and put it on just a pizza dough. We put a little ranch dressing or pesto on the bottom and put raw vegetables. They love it. They think it's great. I mean, because you can see, we don't have a kitchen. You probably noticed that. We have an outdoor sink that's out here. In fact, it's not even in this picture because that was before that even existed. So we have a place to wash. So we have a place to wash hands. Try to keep the germs down as much as possible. The other thing we do is I make a big bowl of pasta, and then we add vegetables to it, and we add some basil or some pesto to that, and they just eat that. The kids love that. And the other discovery we've made is there is a device that you can put on a table, and you put a great big giant, those zucchinis you want to get rid of every year, and you put it through, and it makes noodles. And we can have a grill, and we just stir. Were you there the day we did that? No.
I just go there.
Oh, I was thinking Michael maybe was. No. So we just pan fry them and add a little bit of garlic, and we put a little bit of zucchini, whatever it is zucchini, but then we just drizzle a little bit with Parmesan and lemon juice, and the kids are like, putting it in their mouths. They love that. So we try to think of snacks that they may be more acquainted with the name of it and bridge that into something that's healthy for them. So, as you can tell, I love doing this, and it's a lot of fun, and I probably have talked at you about a lot of things. So if you have any questions, we're hoping to bring nutrition and better health to the students that are coming to the garden club at Prosperity Gardens. Thank you. That's it. called? Do you remember? A noodle maker or something? I'd have to.
The name of the thing is a spiralizer?
There, you do know what it is. Yes. How do you know about it?
I read a lot of history and cooking blogs, and it's a common way to make gluten-free pasta.
Oh, that it is.
Things like that.
Yep.
So,
And you can use other vegetables. I haven't
carrots,
tried.
zucchini,
Yeah, carrots are a little hard because they're so hard, but zucchini and yellow squash works beautifully.
It's kind of soft, so I'm not
Mm-hmm. Spiralizer. Is that what you called it?
That's what I've seen it called.
Yeah, I think that sounds right. A bunch of us own one now because we have.
Yes, it makes us a little really key things.
Yeah.
Those kitchen appliances that I've never gotten before, but like.
I know.
Would be kind of cool.
Yeah.
If I had time to cook.
Yeah. Oh, it's worth it.
You have-
Yeah.
You have time to cook.
Sure you do. It's healthy.
It's really quick too.
It does go fast. So I hope you guys learned something. I hope this was informative, and if you have an opportunity to ever volunteer, come see us.
I just was thinking, Sammy, who's not here because she has another commitment at this time, is involved with a solar stove project.
A what?
Solar stove.
Oh,
And
solar
this
stove.
This particular stove is not photovoltaic. It captures the heat from the sun,
Cool.
and then it enhances it so that it's actually a collector that collects heat, and then you can cook from it. And
Whoa,
I know
cool.
that the people who are working on it are thinking about third world countries, but
Yeah,
I think we could probably get a hold of one.
that would be awesome. That would be really awesome. Because one other thing I forgot to mention is we have we make smoothies. And I mean, how can you not have a garden without smoothies, right? Dumping all the vegetables in there. Do you remember which department made it? I don't remember. Some department
I
helped.
kind of brought it from the English department,
It is. Oh, okay.
but I don't know what.
I probably didn't make it.
What they made is a bicycle that runs a blender. So when we make our blenders, unfortunately the kids can't do it. Only the adults can do it. I know. I wish the kids could, but because you sit here and the legs are down here, they're too little to do it. And it takes a lot of energy, and it takes like one person kind of supervising, keeping the blender in place so it doesn't shoot out. But it runs the blender, so but the solar stuff, oh my goodness. Yeah, we'd like that. That would be a lot of fun.
So one of the things that people in this office end up doing a lot is connecting, particularly the College of Engineering, various research projects to people.
Okay.
And so like the solar stove project is one of those.
Sure.
There are some others that I was just thinking about. We have a solar oven that uses reflectors in the basement or downstairs. We could probably. It's too late now.
Yeah.
It's sun now, but maybe next
Is it
summer.
portable?
Oh yeah, it's a cardboard box.
It's covered box with oil and stuff on it, and they can be a real pain. I was a summer camp counselor. They can be a real pain when you don't have the right sunlight and you plan to use the solar oven and it takes like 6 hours for your cookie to bake because there's not enough sunlight. But they're super portable and like really
Okay.
easy to make.
Well,
Cardboard boxes.
A
Yours
cardboard box.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like us. I mean, we're kind of on a cardboard box budget,
It's
so.
like something the kids can put together and then try to make something in. It doesn't always turn out great, but if you use dough that is edible, even if it isn't fully cooked.
Huh. Could you make kale chips? Because that's one thing we've done on the grill.
I don't know if you might have to leave them in there for a while because to dehydrate them,
Right.
like for a long time, the solar oven already isn't super reliable. But hey, to try it.
It is amazing what the kids will try when they are actually the ones that did all the process. They harvested it, they cleaned it. It's like, oh, of course, I went to all this work,
Another interesting way to make chips is to get it on the cheap is to go to the Home Depot and get air conditioning filters. It's a way to dehydrate food without a real food dehydrator.
What?
You stick the chips on the air conditioner because they have those slats that you can lay thinly sliced vegetable flat on.
Huh.
And then you just rubber band them together and put a fan next to it. And the fan forces through the air conditioning filter, and they're sterile because they're air conditioning filters. They're meant to go in your house. And it's a way to dehydrate chips. That filters are really
How
cheap.
fun.
Can you just use the
Who
wind?
knew? Yeah, I was going to say. Or a grill.
If you're not worried about squirrels or something breaking into there, but yeah, it's
Yeah, no, we have woodchucks over there. There's
Fancy.
tons of woodchucks along that railroad. So that's the biggest challenge.
How do you keep them from eating everything?
Well, she's actually had people come with live traps and had to remove them because they tunnel underneath the tracks, I guess. And yeah, it's been a big issue around the like supply building. They've had to put rock that they couldn't tunnel through, and yeah, I thought squirrels were bad. Woodchucks are worse. So, well, thank you. Let me know if you have any other questions. Michael has my contact information.
And thank you very much for
Yeah.
coming and talking
You're
with us.
welcome.
Doing it in Prosperity Gardens.
Yeah,
Sounds really interesting.
it is. It's been a good project.
The kids are adorable.
Yeah,
How many
well,
kids about for some?
well, that's one of the challenges. They they actually had 50 kids in their program this year, and there's no way. We've always said 24 is our max because you have to have so much individualized training with them, and we've had enough volunteers to do I felt, an effective job with 24. But we never know from week to week how many they just happen to come our way. So we've had to be a little flexible in that, but we try, especially with the plots. I mean, you've got so many plots, and you can't have, you know.
I was just thinking, would you consider like a second site at like Douglas Center?
I don't know. That's,
I mean,
yeah,
You've got your curriculum, you've got all of your
Mhm.
stuff.
yeah,
You could, if,
yeah.
One of the, we're involved in a sort of peripheral way with the summer program at Bilingual Center.
Are you?
And
Okay,
they can get their people,
yeah.
you know, I'm just thinking of ways to make it grow, you know.
Mhm, mhm. Well, one of the things that Nicole did this year is, because of funding, what I had to do is all my lesson plans were sent to her in advance in a particular format, and then she put them into the extension service, kind of like, are you familiar with 4-H?
Oh.
Yeah, okay. So the people over there are then, my understanding is, using that curriculum for like a program in Danville with, there's a juvenile delinquent program that has gardening. There's a program in Danville. So I think the curriculum, like I just developed because it was fun to develop. I'm not, you know, patenting it or anything. And I've given it all over to Nicole. Then Nicole's put it into that package thing, and then they're using the, I think it's through the Master Gardeners, and what their projects are. I think they're using some of that programming. So you're right. It's more formalized, but it really, I have to say, it really depends on somebody who knows kids and how to adapt it to children, and that love kids. You know, yeah. Do I need to say that? I think I do when I'm talking to educators. Not everybody, you know, knows how to make it fun, and yeah. So yeah, some volunteers have learned that they don't really like to work with kids, and some have learned that they really like kids more than they thought. So
You need to like kids more than you like plants.
I agree. Yeah. Plans, and be willing to go with the flow, because like one day it rained and we all just had to just change our plans on, you know, and sometimes things happen that, I mean, just like the classroom really, and it's just an outdoor classroom, but yeah. Anyway,
Thank you.
you're welcome.